Flag on the screen?
Yes.
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 Okay, we ready?
Yes.
I pledge allegiance,
To the flag
of the
of the United States of America
and to
and to the republic
for which it
which
stands,
stands
one nation, under
under God,
indivisible,
Indivisible,
with
with
liberty.
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Let me just see here. Suzanne, would you please take roll call?
Yes. Trustee Burdall.
Here.
Trustee Brocchini.
Here.
Trustee Doggett.
Here.
Trustee Levin.
Here.
Trustee Villalobos. Trustee Villalobos.
Here.
Thank
Here.
you.
The district digitally records the audio portion of the meetings. All recordings are kept in the superintendent's office for 30 days and are available during that time period for inspection by members of the public on district equipment without charge. Speakers wishing to address the board, please submit your first and last name in the Q&A area of the webinar. You will be called by the board president one at a time to address the board. Your microphone will be unmuted and you may speak up to 3 minutes. After you have spoken, your microphone will be muted. Item 6, report out on closed session topics. The board met in closed session regarding conference with labor negotiator, agency negotiator, CSEA and LSEA and LSME. No action was taken. Item 7, approval of the amended minutes of March 11th, 2020. Are there any questions regarding the amended minutes of March 11th, 2020? And I'm going to call on these guys just as I see the pictures and the tiles. Elizabeth, you're first. Any questions?
And no questions.
Linda Brocchini.
No questions.
Laverne Villalobos.
No questions.
And Kai Doggett.
No questions.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the amended minutes of March 11th, 2020?
A motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Trustee,
Oh, sorry. What do?
we're gonna do by vote.
Okay.
Trustee Burdall.
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini.
Yes.
Trustee Doggett.
Yes.
Trustee Levin.
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll try to stick to the script here. All right. Approval of the minutes of April 1st, 2020. Are there any questions regarding the minutes of April 1st, 2020? Trustee Burdall.
No questions.
Trustee Brocchini.
No questions.
Trustee Villalobos.
No questions.
And Trustee Doggett.
No questions.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of April 1st, 2020?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Campos, could you please take the roll call vote?
Yes. Trustee Burdall,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Levin,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, last one. Approval of the minutes of April 22nd, 2020. Are there any questions regarding the minutes of April 22nd, 2020? Trustee Burdall,
And no questions.
Trustee Burkini,
No questions.
Trustee Villalobos,
No questions.
and Trustee Doggett.
No questions.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of April 22nd, 2020?
All motion to approve?
Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Ms. Campos, will you please take a vote?
Trustee Burdall,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Levin,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. We are on item 10, approval of the agenda and the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda will be approved with one motion, which is not debatable and which requires a unanimous vote for passage. If any member of the board, the superintendent, or the public so requests, any item shall be removed from the section and placed in the regular order of business following approval of the consent agenda. Are there any questions regarding the approval of the consent of the agenda and consent agenda? Trustee Burdall,
No changes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Nope.
Trustee Villalobos,
No changes.
and Trustee Doggett.
No changes.
Okay, and I have no changes either. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Campos, will you please take the roll call vote?
Trustee Burdall,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Levin,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. 11, communications. Speakers wishing to address the board, please submit your first and last name in the Q&A area of the webinar. You will be called by the board president one at a time to address the board. Your microphone will be unmuted and you may speak up to 3 minutes. After you have spoken, your microphone will be muted. LSEA. So do we have anybody from LSEA?
Megan had a question and
Oh,
she said
nothing.
nothing at this time. She asked a question about how folks would do public comment, and I texted her the response that you had just read from the directions on how to
Okay.
do that through Q&A. And we have 2 people that would like to speak, but it's around item 12C.
Sure, I see that. So CSEA. Okay, we have a third person that wants to speak on item 12C. But is there someone from representative from CSEA who wishes to address the board? Okay, I'll take that as a no. Let's move on to 11D, correspondence. You are on mute, Superintendent Olson. You are still on mute.
My space bar isn't working on that end. Just today, the public health officer's extension of the shelter-in-place order came in. We will post it on our website, and I will send out a note to families this week. It's not anything that anyone's surprised by, but extends the order through the end of May.
Okay, thank you. Board Superintendent Communications, item 11E. Who would like to start?
I'll just say I don't have any communications to share this time.
Okay. Elizabeth, do you have something?
I think the only thing, most things are shut down. We did have a joint articulation meeting with the city and mainly on updating everything from the county, the same as we've all been getting the emails. The meeting with the county superintendent, which is every Thursday. Had a Pacifica collaboration meeting, which was really just a check-in to see how everybody was doing. And I've been hearing the teacher parades going around the neighborhood. I haven't been able to actually, by the time I run out, they're usually gone on another block, but it's been real exciting to have the little caravans of teachers. I think I know at least one was IBL. I don't know if the others have done it yet. But a couple different days this past week, they've gone through the neighborhood.
Nice. Okay, Trustee Brocchini.
Yeah, so I've been attending the SAMCETA calls, which are the elected officials in San Mateo County. Today, Jackie Spear was on there and Phil Ting, also Mike Callaghy, who's been running most of those meetings. Heather already mentioned that the shelter in place has been extended to the 31st. Also on Monday, some of the recreation restrictions will be loosened. You can travel 10 miles from your house for recreation. 13 of the 23 parking lots will be open, but the beaches will not be open. There will be also at the beaches, no tents allowed, no chairs, no barbecues. So basically, they still want people off the beaches. So that pertains to a lot of people here in Pacifica. They're still trying to get business loans out to small businesses and doing their best to service the homeless and families that are needing food around town and throughout the county. They're doing a great job with that. I also did, from a very safe social distance, participate or watch the Valimar teacher parade today, which was a lot of fun, and it was great to see all my teacher friends, and then also get to see my kids see their teachers was really great. So, but we of course were wearing our masks and 6 feet away, so we were doing all we could. So that's it.
Thank you very much for the update. Everybody says that it's not a lot, but it sounds like everybody's been pretty busy with meetings and such. So Trustee Villalobos, you are next.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I haven't been doing a lot on the outside. I'm trying to stay home as much as possible, but I've just been reading a million emails a day. Last week on Friday, all of a sudden I heard the parade coming up Banyan Way from Ortega. So I got out my camera and I was able to get some familiar faces on video, and I posted it to Facebook. And my 18-year-old daughter who went to Ortega she said it brought back good memories. So that was really nice to see, just a big reminder of what the distance learning is doing and that we're here for the kids.
Excellent. Okay. My only update. Well, I was at the I was virtually attending the joint articulation meeting, so I was there with Superintendent Olson and Trustee Berdal. Yesterday, I participated in a webinar for policy analysis for California education, which was really focused on the fiscal effects of the crisis and what we might be in store for. So it wasn't the happiest news to share, but it was an important conversation. And so we have some tough times ahead of us, as you all know. But we will weather the storm. I'm confident. So I think that's it. Oh, Superintendent Olson, what would you like to share?
Trustee Levin didn't mention this piece, but he was quoted on the front page article of the San Francisco Chronicle. I believe it did come out of the PACE webinar. So if you're looking for a quote from, it's in his error roll as American Institute of Research around the economy. And so that's on page, I think, 9 or 10 of today's Chronicle. So I've been, our team spends a lot of time in these Zoom meetings, and we had one today with the district office. We have not met as a district office team since we departed in March 13th. And then other meetings that are just important in terms of regular attendance and routine is that every Friday morning I have a big all staff meeting, particularly focused around certificated staff. And then I had one for classified staff, which wasn't so successful last week, but I think we've figured out the technology issues around that. Just that regular routine of bringing people together. At the last Friday morning meeting, there were over 90 people, and it's really nice to see people come together. It's as important as to be able to see that we're all in this together. So I appreciate everyone who comes to any of those optional meetings, and I think it's just like folks are going out to see, teachers are going out to see the students. It's really nice to see all of the teachers together too.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to move on to items 12. So district goals. The district values the goals provided in our local control accountability plan, LCAP, and strategic plan. All of our district board agenda items are tied to these goals. One or more goals are listed in the description of each board agenda item. The details for each of those district goals can be accessed on our agenda online public page or by visiting the district website, www.pacificasd.org, under District Administration, Board of Trustees. Item 12A, Resolution 2020-04-29, Day of the Teacher and Teacher Appreciation Week, and Resolution 2020-04-29-B, Resolution Classified School Employee Week. Ms. Gavidia, you are on mute. You are still muted.
Still muted. How about now?
All good.
Okay. So we are bringing forward today 2 resolutions for your consideration. I think this year they have a particularly special meaning for Day of the Teacher and Week of the Teacher and Week of the Classified Staff. So I'd like to just turn it over to Superintendent Olson for more comment.
Thank you. So if you think about this being an ordinary year, this would be a big rolling into May celebration of the staff members with big PTA luncheons and other kinds of recognition for the amazing work that they do. This is a very unusual time, and it will seem weird to not have this part of our routine. But I would like to just take a moment and from the very bottom of my heart, thank our staff members for their incredible work. We left on March 13th, thinking that we were going to be gone for a couple of weeks and that this was a temporary situation. And we now are in the situation where there are about 7 weeks of school left and we don't even know what to expect. And so I think employees that are facing things that we've never thought about before and that we've never tried. Nobody signed up for this or thought this was the way that it was going to be, but the way that we're working together, I think really speaks to the amazing people that work for the Pacifica School District. In particular, I'd like to recognize the CSEA and the LSEA leadership that have worked hand in hand in terms of solving problems and moving quickly without having all of the answers to things. In some of my Friday announcements, I'm often responding to the news that might be out there from Governor Newsom or in the federal realm, and it's just really hard to answer a lot of those questions in terms of what's it going to look like this summer, what's it going to look like this fall. And I really applaud the folks that are recognizing that there's ambiguity in the work that we do. And I think the thing that I appreciate the most, and I'll do my best to say this without tearing up, is I appreciate how much they care about our kids and their families, and that they are going to the end of the earth to make sure that our kids are getting what they need. And I think I appreciate that a million times. So I would like to read the resolutions. Would you like me to read them, or as trustees, would you like to share that with us?
I am easy either way, but if there's one of my colleagues up here that would like to, well, up here in here that would like to read the resolution, they should speak up and they can have a chance to do that. Superintendent Olson, it looks like you are going to be the orator here.
I am happy to do that, and so I will read that today for to put into the public reading, and then I will certainly do it on Friday when I meet with the staff. So the very first one is, let me make sure I have the resolutions in the correct order. So A is Day of the Teacher and Appreciation Week. So resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Pacifica School District, County of San Mateo, State of California, that whereas a strong, effective system of free public school education for all students and youth is essential to our democratic system of government, and whereas today's teacher nurture the academic, social, emotional, and physical development of students, preparing the workforce of the future, and whereas no other profession touches as many persons with such a lasting effect, whereas good teaching grows in value and pays dividends far beyond the classroom, whereas May 4th to May 8th, 2020 has been designated National Teacher Appreciation Week, with May 5th, 2020 proclaimed as Day of the Teacher. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees in the Pacifica School District proudly proclaims its appreciation of the outstanding job performance each and every day by the teachers of the district through their gift of teaching, enrich the lives of all their students. I'm just checking to make sure. So I think this is a vote that happens. Yes, these happen all together. So let me now read 429B, and that is Classified School Employee Week. Resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Pacifica School District, County of San Mateo, State of California, that whereas classified school employees provide valuable services to the schools and students of Pacifica School District that includes instruction, nutrition, transportation, facilities, and grounds, as well as help. And whereas the classified school employees contribute to the establishment and promotion of a positive and joyful learning environment, and whereas classified school employees serve a vital role in providing the welfare and safety of Pacifica School District students, and whereas classified school employees employed by the Pacifica School District strive for excellence in all areas relative to the educational community, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Pacifica School District hereby recognizes and honors the contribution of the classified school employees to quality education in the state of California and in the Pacifica School District, and declares the week of May 17th to 23rd, 2020 as Classified School Employee Week in the Pacifica School District.
Thank you very much. So the prompt here says, are there any questions regarding either of these resolutions? But and I'm to call on each of my colleagues, but I don't think it's necessarily just about questions. Any discussion surrounding these is most welcome. So I'm going to go again in order of the pictures that I see. So next up is Trustee Brocchini.
Well, I just thank you. Also, I concur with Heather from the bottom of my heart. I mean, these teachers and staff, all of you are working so hard. It's amazing. And to basically given 2 days notice and say go, and you did it. So great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Trustee Villalobos. You are on mute.
Sorry. I just want to thank all the teachers and LSEA, CSEA, just for everything that everybody has done in the past month, cleaning the rooms, going home and teaching the kids, everything. It's just amazing. And we're just in different times, but thank you.
Thank you very much. Trustee Burdall.
Yeah, same as everybody else. Everyone's done just such a wonderful job and with no notice. And I've seen some amazing lessons online that rival anything that was in person. And the passing out the lunches and just everybody, like I said, all the cleaning, everything they're doing, it's just been amazing. So and nothing that was ever expected or planned. So above and beyond.
Thank you. And Trustee Doggett.
I just want to say the same. Thank you all for all the hard work and everything that you've done. Truly amazing.
Yeah, I want to concur with all of my colleagues here. Just a Herculean effort, and I am just taken back when I see my two boys engaging in this distance learning, and just the amount of effort to develop materials. It's like stopping on a dime and switching the way you do things just almost immediately. I am just really proud of this district. I just can't believe how fast and seemingly seamless it was. I know behind the scenes it doesn't seem like that, but here, I think in a relatively short period, we really made the transition extremely quickly. And I think everybody should be extremely proud. And I'm just very, very thankful. So thank you very much. Let me see. I guess we have to vote on this. So do I have a motion to approve both of these resolutions?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Ms. Campos, please take the vote.
Trustee Burdall,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Levin,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to move to item 12B, the child nutrition price increases effective July 2020, or should we say the intended price increases. So Ms. Peterson.
Thank you. Tonight, I bring before you a proposed lunch price increase for your consideration. Now, in our school district, it's been since July 2012 since we have had a price increase. And our program is thank you for bringing it up on the screen, Will. Our program is operating at a loss. As you know, the board has been committing at least $56,000 a year from the general fund to the child nutrition program. Now, over the years, our labor costs have continued to increase, and of course, food costs, and we just haven't been able to run a break-even program. This year especially, we'll have a significant loss in the program. So what we are proposing tonight is a 25-cent increase for the program. We did look at neighboring school districts, comparable school districts, and if we were to raise the lunch price at the K-8s by 25 cents and the K-5s, it would be $3.50, and the middle school would be $3.75, which is pretty much in line with the comparable neighboring school districts and a little lower than some of the other school districts. The breakfast prices, we would also, actually, there is no proposal to increase breakfast at this time, but we would also increase the adult lunch and the adult breakfast price. So this is up for discussion for the board. If it's something that you would like to move forward with, we would make that effective on July 1st, 2020, and that would give us plenty of time to advertise and give notice to the parents. I don't know if there's any questions or discussion. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
I guess I don't have a question, Ms. Peterson, but I did want to point out that even with this quarter increase, it still does not pay for the program entirely. We're still chipping in. right, to keep it afloat. So
Exactly. It's not going to make a break-even program, especially with what's going on this year and quite possibly next year. It's just going to make a chip in the loss that we are currently incurring.
Josie?
Yes.
I just, I guess I have some concerns raising food prices considering the situation we're in right now. I do. So what kind of a loss if we raise the prices? We'd still be having a loss. Well, do you know what that would be?
Yes, actually, I totally get your concerns. This is really bad timing to even bring this issue up, but this would be the timing if we were to do it in this next school year. For this year, it's an unusual school year. Our loss could be as much as 300,000, and we had been incurring closer to 60,000 loss. Looking at next year, if we take just what our sales were from the prior year, we're still looking at possibly $100,000 loss. This increase would really only, if you look at how many meals we sold in 18-19 and use those figures, this increase might bring in about $30,000. But I do hear you. It is very, very difficult time to even to bring up this item for discussion, but it would be the timing that we would normally bring it. So I thought it was best to bring it forward and have you have that discussion and contemplate whether or not to move forward.
So if we were thinking that now is really the worst time, I mean, could we consider something where we look at possible increases next year, but raise it by say 30 cents or something like that instead of 25 cents at a later date? I just use next year as an example. To tell you the truth, I'm kind of on the fence here, and this is the worst time to do this. However, the prices haven't budged since 2012, so that's a really, really long time. That's 8 years ago. But I think I'm with Trustee Brocchini. Would it kill us to put this off for a while, right? Would it really, could the district not navigate that? And it sounds like they probably could, but that's so. Trustee Villalobos, and you are muted.
Can you hear me now? Oh, I'm just listening to everybody. You know, we're in different times right now, and a large, or a large percentage of our kids might qualify for reduced or free lunch next year if we go into a recession of some kind. It's been a long time, but just I think in the spirit of supporting our families, I think a price increase right now, I don't know. I just feel like it's not something we should do right now. Maybe we could put it off until next year.
Thank you. Trustee Brocchini.
Yeah, I was just wondering, just in general, like across the state, are there programs like a Second Chance, Second Harvest Food Bank, or some programs that will help, that can help school districts, because in lots of ways, it feels bad to have to charge kids for food in the first place. But are there programs in the state that we can bring in to help supplement somehow the
We haven't quite yet qualified. Can you hear me now? We haven't quite yet qualified for those programs. There was a recent grant put forth just this past month because of the COVID-19, and we put our application in, and we did not get that grant. And the difficulty we have is not having a high enough free and reduced population to meet those thresholds. So we're kind of, again, the district caught in the middle where we don't really have a lot of sales, we don't have a lot of high free and reduced, and we don't qualify for grants. But it is a good point, Linda, and we will continue, every time an opportunity comes up, of course, we will continue to apply and try to obtain some outside funding as well.
So Trustee Bradal, you are next.
On the one hand, since 2012, it makes sense, but we have so many on free and reduced. I don't know if there's any way we could revisit it in January, maybe partway through the year, or like you said, at least maybe holding steady at this time.
And Trustee Doggett.
It's bad timing. I think we need to just table this until a later date.
Thank you all. I really appreciate your consideration, and this will be an item that we'll bring back again in the spring of 2021.
Okay, so is that so we're not, we just don't vote on it. We're going to just put it off. Is that the idea?
Correct, right, Suzanne?
Okay.
Yes, it would
Okay.
be no action taken.
Gotcha. Okay, so we don't vote it down. We just put it off. Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are on item 12C, Vice Principal of Guidance and Learning at Ocean Shore, and we have at least three different commenters from the public, and I'm going to ask them in order to come on. The first is Michelle Zoromsky.
Hello, board members. My name is Michelle Zoromsky. Tonight, I speak to you not only as a first grade teacher at Ocean Shore, but a parent of a 7th grader who's there and 2 9th graders who both graduated last year. As a staff and community, we have had a blockbuster of a year. Not only was our school flooded on January 16th, and we subsequently had to teach out of our classrooms with minimal materials, still today we face working with materials that are piled in the middle of our classrooms, unfinished walls, and teachers displaced out of portables due to ongoing construction. We are also learning how to come to grips with the effects of COVID-19 and distance learning for this year and possibly next. In the midst of all of this, our principal is moving to the district office, and we have found out that the funding to keep a stable administrator in our office, our vice principal, is being eliminated. Our vice principal is more than just an admin that our principal can delegate to. She's a first line of defense for our students who know that with limited counseling services available, they can turn to her for help. I've witnessed this both firsthand as a parent and a teacher. She greets all students with a friendly smile each time she sees them. She works endlessly with students to resolve conflicts. She steps in and becomes a weekly or bi-weekly check-in for students that otherwise might feel overwhelmed by the curriculum. She supervises students who need alternatives to suspension. She is irreplaceable in ensuring the safety and health of our students, demonstrated by her calm evacuation of our school during the flood in the absence of our principal. Because she takes this active role in the mental health and well-being of our students, there is less disruption in the learning of others, a healthier learning environment for our students, and staff is better able to deliver a rigorous curriculum. As you can see, she positively impacts the school climate for both staff and students in immeasurable ways. We believe that she will help us maintain a fraction of stability during the most unstable time we have faced as a school. We, the community and staff of Ocean Shore, appreciate the board directing Dr. Olson to explore creative ways to keep our vice principal and continue to thrive amidst the wave of challenges we've faced this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Next, we have Patty McNally.
Patty McNally, Ocean Shore School. I find my new mantra lately to be out of our control. We don't know what is going to happen, but together we'll make it. This year, our Ocean Shore community has been hearing and saying these words a lot. The families, the students, and the staff, as you know, are a resilient bunch and have certainly pushed their resilience to its limit this year. As Ocean Shore was still getting a grip on the devastating flood, The pandemic hit. Even now, we still have 3 displaced teachers and students from their portable classrooms, furniture and materials in a big pile in the middle of the floor, walls partially replaced, and assorted other building projects going on. Belford and the district have been great, but once again, it's out of our control. We don't know when it's going to be done. But as always, we carry on with our distance learning and Zooming with our students and doing what needs to be done to put our students first in spite of what's happening around us. So you may ask why we do this. What is that helps us continue down this crazy journey? Well, the obvious is the love of our students and commitment to their education, but there's more to it. During all this, we had strong school leadership heading our team. That leadership was Julie and Siva. They were the ones who held us together, who told us we had this, we could do this, and so we did. Then Julie went on leave to add to our Ocean Shore family with Otto, but Siva remained with us. And so the story continues with the pandemic. And when we needed someone to take over the leadership role, Siva remained and even stepped in to be interim principal. She continued to be our support and go-to person for all those tough situations that you just didn't know what to do with. When I think of Siva, although I appreciate everything she does for me every day, the piece that I think is most important for our school family is her love and passion in caring for our students. Nothing is more important in her day at school than our kids. She has a special talent to work and counsel students from kindergarten to 8th grade. There have been students who hadn't made it anywhere else, but found a home at Ocean Shore with her help. Next year, Ocean Shore students face another year of uncertainty in so many ways. They need one constant as they face their questions and their fears, someone they can trust and can talk to, and that constant is Siva. We as a school ask the board tonight to please direct Heather to continue to work with our Ocean Shore community to try to make this happen. We feel with Heather's support and direction and our out-of-the-box thinking, we can do this. We can do this with your help tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have one more public commenter, and that is Michelle Tuman. Michelle, I'm not sure if you're trying to speak, but you are muted.
Am I
There you
muted?
go.
There I go. Okay. Good evening, board members. My name is Michelle Tuman. I am the PTO president for Ocean Shore School. I have a 6th grade student as well as a 9th grade student who graduated from the Ocean Shore program, having experienced the K through 8 community. I am speaking tonight in support of the retention of our Vice Principal Siva for the 2020-2021 year. And I completely concur with all of the comments made by Michelle and Patty. Siva is an invaluable member of our family, and our families are in a time of upheaval, and they need some sort of stability, and our children need some sort of stability, and Siva presents that face of love and support. While I recognize we are all experiencing a unique and challenging time, this year has been especially traumatic for our Ocean Shore family. Not only did we face the upheaval caused by the flood, we learned of the transition and loss of our amazing principal, Julie, as well as the loss of our equally amazing Vice Principal, Siva. I've received many emails and comments from so many families, as I know our superintendent has as well. And now our families and students have no idea what next year will bring. And they are in a perpetual case of stress. Their students need love and support, and we want our family to encircle them and provide that support. At this time, what the Ocean Shore students and community needs is some semblance of hope for normalcy and the stability, love, and support that we have always found in our Vice Principal, Siva. Siva means so much to the Ocean Shore family on so many levels. She has helped guide so many students, including mine, through the inevitable growing pains and social issues faced in a normal year. She has provided support to families, parents, staff, and I know the principal as well. And with the new principal, she will help in that transition. Quite simply, and I'm getting emotional, I'm sorry, but we need her to be there to support our students, community, and our new principal. We've had a rough year, and we could really use her guidance, all of us, the families, the PTO, the students, in this upcoming year of transition. And I really appreciate your consideration of the superintendent's means of trying to make that happen for our Ocean Shore community. And I appreciate your time this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. With that, I would like to invite discussion on this matter. Superintendent Olson, I guess you're first.
I just want to frame this in terms of what an incredibly difficult situation that this is the flood. And the flood was quite incredible in terms of the length of time and the time that it's still going on. The transition of the principal, as we had to make significant budget reductions and we reduced the assistant principal or vice principal at the K-8 schools. That decision was made on March 11th. And so this is, I have heard from a number of families, probably over 20 parents, but I really am hearing from teachers. And I can't remember the date of it, but it was right around March 13th. Maybe it was March 11th, right before we were all going out. A group of teachers invited me to come talk to them. And it was a difficult time between fear of illness and what was going on at that time. Significant fear around who was going to be the new principal. And I think that's something that we're going to get squared away next week that I think is going to be a great thing. But the transition is scary. And because this is their second new principal in 3 years, there's significant concern. And so in talking to the staff, and it was a problem solving, emotional discussion, I really got from them how they see this transition period as being really key to the success. They recognize that they've had the flood. This was way before we even knew what COVID-19 would bring to us, but recognizing that we're going to get past that flood and we will together, but also being very concerned about the transition to a new principal. And so here's the challenge as the superintendent who had to cut out hundreds of thousands of dollars is how to do this in a way that's fair to other schools, right? Is that the thought is how do we use the resources that they have at that school? So each of the schools receive some funding, which we refer to as SIPSA funding, and it is an amount per student that each school gets, and they use it for either enrichment, to look for some prep programs, things that sometimes it pays for electives, things that can support the environment, sometimes intervention programs. So that's one avenue. Fortunately or unfortunately, it seems at Ocean Shore we have a hard time not making rain references or water references, but there is a rainy day fund because when school was canceled in March, when we went to student dismissal or school dismissal, a bunch of field trips were canceled. And so there's some PTO savings there. In terms of the amount of money each school gets, it's not typically big enough that they could pay for a part-time administrator. It's not in the $70,000 to $80,000 range. But we were, knowing with the transition of the principal, we were intending to pay for a half-time counselor. Sometimes Ocean Shore has had a hard time getting a part-time counselor, and so instead that's been augmented with a YSB contractor. But that is a place where a significant chunk of those savings could come from. And so it's really reallocating resources, which we hear from the staff and the parents that they want to do. What I would be quite clear about is that this is a one-time only transition. The issue is there's fear about the transition and how to maintain the spirit of Ocean Shore during this transition. So we'd have to be very clear that it's only for 1 year. It's also not sustainable to use those resources in that way. And we also recognize the really important part of mental health. And so that's why we wouldn't want to do it beyond one period of year. So this is something that is unusual, I think. And so I bring it really to you for discussion and direction. I think just a couple things to put forward on this is I'm only in my second year, but we have not paid for an administrator out of site resources in that way. And so I think that's unique. And the other part that's is I would like some direction on how we go forward. This isn't a vote on your part, because ultimately, should you give me direction and the school site be able to figure out how to do that, then we would come back to you with the position and the approval of that. So today it's just really discussion and direction that I'm seeking from you.
Thank you very much. And I'm sorry for cutting you off before, not letting you go. So I'm going to call upon my colleagues again to put in their 2 cents each. Trustee Brocchini.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a lot of thought has gone into this. My only concern after being on the PTO for a lot of years is putting forward PTO money for administrator. But it definitely, I mean, it sounds like that's something they want. I mean, we have the PTO president speaking on that today. So it definitely seems like this is what the community wants. And but that would be my only reservation is the PTO not shoulder the burden going on, but it sounds like there's understanding around that. So that's
Thank you. Up next is Trustee Bradall.
I don't have a problem with it during this transition time. I think it would need to be really clear that it wouldn't go on past this year. As far as the PTOs hiring a person, I think that problem was solved. We had that problem with music programs in the past. This would be someone I assume the district would hire and the PTO reimburses, as we do with some of the music program now. And it's not somebody that they are actually hiring themselves. So there has been a lot of upheaval. Hopefully whoever's brought in as the new principal, they'll be able to hit the ground running, and they'll feel much more comfortable after that's all in place. But this would just be the transition.
Thank you. Trustee Villalobos.
I recognize that Ocean Shore School has been through a lot with the flood, and now we have the pandemic. And also the counseling piece is really important, and being able to connect with the kids there. My concern, and it's a big concern, is the equity of our schools and their PTOs and their ability to raise money to staff an administrative position. Some of our schools don't earn 100,000 or 120,000 in their PTO funds. So if another school who only raises 40,000 in their PTO funds, would this even be an option for them? Into account the equity, because it's money. But in this case, I would strongly, strongly say that it could not be for more than the 2021 year, in my opinion, because of the equity. And I think it's dangerous waters when we let the PTO pay for administrative jobs and not the district. The district should be paying for administrative jobs, period. And that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you. Trustee Doggett.
I also have very similar concerns to Trustee Villalobos. We eliminated multiple, it was more than one vice principal position, correct?
Correct. It was it was 1.5 administrative positions.
So what other school lost their vice principal?
Both of the other K-8s, Cabrillo and Valamar.
Yeah, while I do understand the transition and what Ocean Shore has been through, I think we're on a slippery slope if we start to allow funding by PTOs to fund administrators. I just, it doesn't sit well with me. I do understand how wonderful she is, and I do get why they want to keep her, but I'm pretty sure that the other schools would want to keep their vice principals as well. So I think about the fairness of the situation.
Thank you. So I think that the equity argument is a good one, but I also see this as the intention here is to make an exception, to do this one time and due to clearly exceptional circumstances. So I kind of think about Ocean Shore, and they've gotten the rug kind of pulled right out from under them with flood and having to replace a vice principal and then possibly their principal and then possibly losing their vice principal. And just for 1 year of continuity, I think that it's a pretty good trade-off here. I agree with you that we shouldn't open the floodgates, and I don't see this as a precedent that we're setting here. I see it more as an exception. Um, you know, I think that if we had another school that was, and it could be any of the other schools, any of the other K-8 schools or K-5 schools in the system, if this was happening to them, the same circumstances happen to them, we'd probably try to bend over backwards to provide them this opportunity for the continuity as well. I guess the only other thing that I want to say is that this certainly is a bottom-up request and it's not a centralized decision. And I'm a firm believer in local control. So I think we've heard some pretty strong statements from stakeholders from Ocean Shore that were for this. And I quite frankly am apt to really support this as long as it's super clear that this is for 1 year and the intention here is to help them get through this transitional period. And that this is not setting a precedent, because I agree that if you do sort of say, oh, well, this is acceptable and any PTO can raise as much money, they'll, all of a sudden they'll try to raise money to hire all sorts of different staff that they want. There could be some very clear inequities across the district. So that's my 2 cents on the matter. Is there anybody else that wants to speak again before we move on?
I just have a couple of clarifying things that I think should be out there in terms of this, is that this is certainly not something I think, so when we talk about that SIPSA money, that's where the district uses that either the school site chooses to use that maybe for intervention, something that could help. This may be something that the school should use some of that SIPSA money for. I think using, certainly we would not expect PTO to even cover half of what the cost would be,
Yep.
but it would be putting some money that they have this year toward that. It really would not be a whole coverage of that, and looking at reallocating resources on that end. And we feel like that's that may be the way that a school can make a choice in a short-term need around that. So I would just say that I want to make sure that people understand that we're not asking PTO to pay for the whole thing, but with kind of those 3 pots of money is probably where it could get covered.
And that's exactly why I brought up the local control, because the SIPSA money is supposed to be at school discretion. So that's what that money's all about. It doesn't cover the whole thing, but it gets them significantly there. I don't know, I can't remember what you said, how much it covers, but I remember it was, I don't know, half, I don't know,
Oh, the SIPSA
Third to
money?
a-
Well, so
third to a half, something like
yeah, I
that.
don't remember off the top of my head what they receive, but I also know that it's used for often it is used for intervention programs, other kinds of things. And so in terms of doing this, it would never be so Siva's currently acting as the interim principal, and so she can't be involved in any of this decisions toward that. And so we would ask Principal Julie and she knows their site budget better, but in terms of talking to her prior to her leaving, when we weren't even talking about a vice principal, she thought there was some room to reallocate resources or use resources in that SIPSA budget that could better benefit kids. So she already had some thoughts around that, but now that this is kind of an important piece and coming to the front with both parents and staff, that's where part of that. So I think it would be maybe 3 sources of that that could happen, and it would be very, very clearly only for 1 year. I know that we would not want a PTO to take that on as a part, but it's kind of like, just like many things that have happened with Ocean Shore this year, it's like you're faced with this piece and then you say, okay, well, how are we going to figure out how to do that? There's no one straightforward answer to this. And I think that there's enough interest to do that. So.
Okay, before moving on, does anybody want to speak on this?
I'd like to just say one more thing.
Sure.
That, it was said that we're not setting precedents, but we are, because we're giving a school something that we're not giving other schools. And I just want the other schools to know that for me, it's an equity thing. And I don't think that they deserve less or the support of a assistant principal or vice principal.
Okay, depending on how this is funded, though, would they not perhaps be giving up a counselor for this that other schools would be getting?
Yes.
Okay. So they're also giving something up, right?
They may be giving something up. One of the things that I believe is going to come out as a result of COVID-19 is there is a philanthropic fund for the recovery process, and it's not going to be a huge amount of money, but I know in our district, mental health support is going to be paramount. And so I was going to apply for additional funding that would put additional mental health professionals in our district. And so that would give us hopefully a little bit of leeway. I certainly cannot promise that that's going to be there, but in terms of prioritizing that in our district, I know that that's absolutely going to be an important priority.
Okay, that you're going to try to do that. I guess my point is that here's a school that's kind of willing to give something up in order to have some continuity. So they've also got some teeth in the game. They're just not being given extra stuff. So I mean, it's it's a difficult situation, but again, I don't think that this would be a normal this would be a normal allowance. But I just also really feel like, boy, these guys have really had a hard time for this last year. So um, anyway, anybody else want to speak on this?
I I do empathize that Ocean Shore has had a hard time, but again, I think that making an exception, it starts us down a path of, what if another school has a flood or something tragic happens, then they want to have the same thing. I think that, by allowing this, we're opening up the doors for every time something extraordinary happens, which could be anything in this time, then we should make a special exception to the rules. And I'm not sure that's the best way to go, because again, this comes down to some schools will be able to afford to add a little their rainy day fund, and other schools wouldn't, and that's not fair to all the students in the district.
I guess a lot of this comes down to what is the variation in, say, PTO money that comes in, and is it really large enough for these guys to make these relatively large outlays for any PTO's budget? And I guess it's sort of you'd have to have this confluence of some extraordinary circumstance happening, and then them having enough money to kind of support this whole thing. So I guess I'm kind of betting that this is an extremely, extremely rare occasion, and I am thinking of this as a real exception. And I'm also just thinking, if this did happen to another school, God forbid, but if another school had a flood and had both principals kind of turning over, being taken away, would we want to extend that to them? I think that's a pretty rare occasion that all these things would happen at once, but I see your point. It's possible, right?
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, it's just, I do feel for the students and the teachers at Ocean Shore, but I'm thinking making a decision like this influences what we do in the future. Do we really want to start down this road? I'm not sure if that's the right decision.
My only thought is, we've got the PTO president coming and talking to us and crying on this video call. And my guess is she's pretty tapped into what's going on at that school, and has probably put in a lot of thought as to how to approach this. So I understand Vern's thoughts about equity, but if it really does feel like this school just, Ocean Shore just needs a little extra boost right now.
Okay, I'm going to use my presidential power and call on Elizabeth Bradal. Do you have anything to add before we move on?
Not really. I think it's a one-time exception and extraordinary circumstances, and I would like to think that, if that many things happen to one of the other schools, we'd find a way to work with them also. Maybe not in the exact same way, but that we would try to find a way to get them through the hump, through the hard times. And that the majority of this is not PTO money, and just everything went, I think, even for the mental health of the families, I think it's important to get them through this time with something steady.
Okay, I'd like to, anybody want to have the last word on this before we move on? Okay, so we are going to move on then. We have item 12D, Director of Human Resources job description. Ms. Gavidia.
Yes, thank you. We're returning forward the job description for the Director of Human Resources. Recall that this came forward on April the 1st at our last board meeting, and you asked that we set it aside and give you the opportunity to gather more information. So we did that, and we're bringing it back for further discussion.
Okay, thank you. So are there any questions regarding the description, the new description? I assume everybody has read it.
So I would like to, I think I'm on, if I may, just highlight a couple of things that are really important in the director's job description. And remember that we're using this director of human resources. Maria is currently acts as the executive director of HR, special ed, and pupil services. And on the March 11th meeting, we appointed the Ocean Shore principal, Julie Tarango Carrillo, as the director of pupil services and special ed for next year. And that's a 0.8 position. And so what we are looking at is how to support HR. And so currently, Maria oversees HR as part of her executive director role, but there's also a coordinator of HR that we appointed in the fall, and after the person that was in that position left. And so there are currently 2 administrators in that position, and we are looking at replacing with 1.8 FTE. And that is HR is a very important role, and it's has become increasingly demanding over the last several years. And the COVID-19 is going to put a more interesting spin on this. Employee leaves, employee health, employee wellness are all going to matter a lot. And so for us, it's very important to have someone in that role. If I talk about the things that are different about the director of human resources versus the coordinator of human resources, is that this person would report directly to the superintendent, would serve on the superintendent's cabinet, would attend board meetings, would develop board policies, would do investigations or remediate personnel issues. And then a big role would be participate in negotiations, and then supporting district administrators in personnel evaluation, discipline, and dismissal process. And so I believe that the right role is the director of HR. And as I said before, I think it's a reduction in services. So if I could just, let's see, if I could show the slideshow at this point. Will, do you mind moving to the next slide? So when we look at the proposed org chart, is taking the previous position, which was executive director of HR, special ed, and student services, and breaking that up along with a coordinator of HR, so 2 administrative positions, and making a reduction to 1.8. And so over here on the org chart would be the director position, supported by a personnel assistant to call subs and do the day-to-day piece of that. And it was deliberately positioned right next to the principals, because that's going to be the primary level of support, making sure that we're I'm getting a different something happening with the there we go. Will's working on that. So so in the org chart, I feel like supporting the principals and primary role of hiring. And then the other piece is just as we were looking at the position, okay, we can move to the next slide, Will. As we were looking at the position, so here's the previous role in 2019, 2020, so it's this year. We started this year with someone in that position on July 1st, with the cost being almost $20,000. We quickly replaced it when that position became open, put the coordinator of human resources in there, and also the executive director position. So the total of those 3 positions is $338,000. When we look at next year as a reduction, so 1.8 FTE. And so the director's of human resources position, that's a 1.0 FTE. And so that would be, we're talking total cost. This is not salary or what is in the paycheck, but all of the costs associated with that, which includes mileage, stipends, pensions, health insurance. And so then the 0.8 Director of Special Education and Pupil Services would be $146,000. So there's a savings of about $10,480. At this time, I recognize that as we go into very, very difficult financial times, that we obviously do not want to add any more costs. But I also think that legally, we want to make sure that we have the resources and the caliber and the talent to be able to support our employees and to make the best decisions that we possibly can. So I would ask you to consider the position of the Director of Human Resources.
Okay, thank you. So I think we, well, let's go into questions and discussion. So Trustee Brocchini.
Looks good to me.
Okay, Trustee Bradall.
It looks good to me, especially with the, slight reduction in the cost. And it's such an important position, and there's such a chance of legal results in that area that could cost us a whole lot more if we don't have the right person in there and have it covered properly. It's a big job.
Trustee Villalobos.
I'm going to disagree with the Human Resources, Director of Human Resources position. Right now we have a coordinator in there at $116,971. Is that correct?
That is correct, but that is working from October, so that's not a full year's salary.
My other issue is that in the past couple of meetings, we've been approving a lot of job descriptions. We've been discussing budget issues and money, and this was before COVID even came in. And so I wanted a little support and direction myself as a board member. So I went back to 2015, February 15th, 2015, if anybody wants to go back and look at the board work study that the district had. In that meeting, we had an organizational review of business services and HR divisions. And it was performed by Special Services of California. And what they reviewed was our efficiency with the different jobs with the district perspective. They did a review of what the district's needs were in nutrition, facilities, HR, our historical budget cuts, and staffing levels. And they gave staff recommendations on what to do. And this was from 2015. And so I did look, and they did recommend support to the assistant superintendent, which position we no longer have. So that's just another example of a manager to help with the HR things. So right now we do have a coordinator position, and my thinking was that if that's getting the job done, then why are we going to change it? Adding a director, that would mean that there's 4 people in the director positions who are going into negotiations. And I don't think we've ever had that since I've been on the board.
That's nuts.
And the other issue I have is that the way that it looks on paper that we're just doing an equal exchange is at $181,000 for a Director of Human Resources position. When we're going from Moy, or I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say anybody's name, but our, I think that was more of a position of not human resources, but personnel. And then we bumped up right from that, and I'd say pretty quickly, to the coordinator of human resources, and now we're going to the director of HR. And so that's where I'm just feeling like we need some assistance in where we want to put our money, because one of the emails that I read today from CSBA is that we may be looking at 300,000 to 275,000 teacher layoffs. And so I guess the whole money thing is just really on my mind right now. And so that's why I'm not agreeing with the new position. I agree with the coordinator position as long as we can revisit it. That helped us in a time when we were having some real struggles with our special ed department. And, now we're having struggles with something else. But I just keep hearing that, we might have to lay off, 275,000 teachers, after this is said and done. And so, just the unknown just really gets to me. So I would ask the board members to consider doing, asking for help, like we did before, somebody from the outside looking in at all of our positions, our budget, how things are running with them, before we make any big decisions.
Thank you. Ms. Gavidia, do you want to say something?
If that's okay with you, Trustee Levin, I just wanted to add a comment.
Sure.
Okay. I know this came up at our last meeting, and since I've been actually living this position for the last 2 years, I just wanted to remind that the position, what the position that is currently as the interim coordinator will be continuing to do all of the things that it's currently assigned to do, plus absorbing the things that I continue to do is in HR, which are the higher level, more complex, more time consuming job duties, some of which Heather mentioned, like negotiations, like investigations, labor relations, and it is quite a broad job to do, and in order to have HR representation at the table, I personally have not heard of anybody in a position that is less advanced than a director, and most of the time it's actually an assistant superintendent who comes to the table for negotiations, who has that level of authority and that level of scope of what's going on from an HR perspective in the district. So I just wanted to remind and restate that.
Thank you. So next up we have Trustee Doggett.
So what I'm concerned about is the special ed crisis that we had earlier in the school year. I feel that we do need an HR director. I think that the position is necessary. However, given the new budget concerns, it's imperative that if we do have this director of HR, that the position comes in at a cost savings, which seems like that's what we're doing. But then where we are right now with, with just for example, the school lunch program, we're operating at a loss and it's just going to get bigger. I am concerned about the finances of the district. I am concerned about what the future will hold in terms of teacher positions and, what monies we're going to get from the state to I don't even know if we're going to get that much. So it's very hard because we need this position, but we also have a lot more to consider right now.
Thank you. So I share a lot of the feelings and concerns here. I know that there are budget cuts coming. That's just a given. Um, I also am concerned that the configuration of staff and duties right now is perhaps not the best, or is not producing the best results with respect to our HR. And so I wasn't on the board back in 2015 when School Services of California came in and did that efficiency report. I guess I would like to look at it. It was a very different time and the whole configuration. I'm not really sure what the associate superintendent at that time what their roles were. It does seem highly irregular that we don't have a dedicated director level position for HR. And I know it's a huge position, and I think that, quite frankly, we might have made a mistake to roll up so many responsibilities into one role. And I can't, and we did that under the previous administration. And it just seems that perhaps our effectiveness in the HR department suffered, quite frankly. And we saw, that combined with labor market difficulties, especially on the special education teacher front, really hurt us. So I guess when Trustee Villalobos says, well, if the job was getting done, why would we spend more on it? I'm not convinced that the job was getting done to where it had to. So I'm just, I would have to say that I'm kind of for this. I think that quite frankly, almost every district, unless you're a very small rural district, really needs somebody who's a director of HR. So it's not, it's taking on more than just pushing paper and making sure people get paid. There are a lot of other duties involved. The other thing is that I see here that we have about a $10,500 savings by making this move here. Okay, from what we have right now. And if and the difference for me is not the 116,971 versus the, sorry, I have to move some windows around here, versus the 181631 in this thing. There's also that roughly 20,000. So it's, it's closer to like 137,000 versus the 181,000. That if you're kind of comparing those two things, how much we're currently spending on HR versus the projected under the new configuration with the director. So I'm kind of for it. I have to say, there are budget cuts coming down, and we don't know what's going to happen there. There's no avoiding that. I don't think that, here we're saving $10,000. So I don't think this is making or breaking. It's not going to change that situation that's looming over us significantly at all. So for me, it's really about, are we going to get a much better functioning HR system for less money than we're currently spending? Sorry for being so, but that's those are my thoughts on this. So do I have other discussion from my colleagues? Yeah.
I want to go ahead and just comment a little more. I just think an HR department is incredibly important, especially moving into next year, there's going to be all kinds of staffing issues, all sorts of legal paperwork that's going to be needed to move. And I think we should just move forward with settling this HR situation. So that's my.
Thank you. So others? This is a really important topic. So yes, Trustee Villalobos.
What's being forgotten here, and I just want to reiterate it, is back in 2015, we actually had a board work study where the public was invited to come in and look at the report that school services did. And in this case, we're just you know, going ahead and rubber stamping it without having the public's input. So we have, you know, the public's input here on the Q&A, but I don't see anybody doing that. And so it just concerns me because we're in a time where we have to do the Zoom meetings. And maybe if this was held in our boardroom, it would be a different scenario. And so I just want to put it out there that we had the school services do the evaluation. We took some of their recommendations. We had a board work study where we came and discussed it out in public. And I'm not saying that HR is not important. I'm just saying that the level that we're talking about at 181,631, you know, in a couple years, that's going to be over $200,000 that somebody is making. So along with all of our admin, it's going to be up there. And so I just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing and we're having somebody else look at our budget.
That 181 is total compensation, not just salary, correct?
Correct. That is total compensation and includes things like the STRS, health and welfare benefits, the additional cost, and things like master stipends. So total cost, yes.
What's the actual salary?
Oh, gosh, I can find that for you as we do this. I think I have it right here. The actual salary would be 137,702. It would be the first step on the director's salary schedule.
Thanks.
So do we have comments on this?
There's a question in the
Is there?
in the
Okay.
queue.
Great. Okay, so please, Janelle Jones, please pose your question. Somebody's going to have to let Janelle speak. I'm not sure who that is.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. My question was in the current slide where it says 2019, 2020, and it shows 3 people's salary. I believe that was when before Moy retired, and then where it says 2020, 2021 is what the proposal is for a director and a director of human resources and a director of special ed. The part that's missing is previous to or after Moy retired, the situation where Allison Drake was assisting with human resources and how that shook down monetarily.
So I'll clarify that just in terms of answering that is that this 1920 is the whole year. So that doesn't include the previous personnel specialist that I don't want to say the person's name, but that did retire, right? Is so that that was in 2018, 2019. So this reflects all of the personnel costs, which includes the 3 months that we had another employee doing the job prior to the coordinator of HR.
So there was only 2 people, not 3 people in the first column?
No, it includes 3 people. So this orange, it also includes the executive director of HR, pupil services, and special ed. So that's why there are 3 people.
Okay. And the second column is reflective of the same two people that we employ now, but at a larger rate, correct?
No, 2020, 2021 reflects the plan for next year, which would be 2 employees. It would be a director of HR and a director of a 0.8 FTE director of special education and pupil services. So just 2 employees.
Okay. But it's the same, the yellow is the same, or is proposed to be the same person that's in that position now as a coordinator, but just for more money.
I don't think we can talk about, I think we talk about positions and not people here.
Correct.
So the job, it's all projected, and these jobs have not been assigned or offered to anybody yet.
So then what is it? It's just it's very confusing the way it's laid out, because it doesn't show the, I don't know, the progression of where it's been over the past year. I think it only shows like 2 snapshots, and I think there's 4.
So do you want to elaborate on that for us?
Well, it's like you said, we're not supposed to talk about people, but
Sure.
you know that
About positions though.
Yeah, so there were.
Would you like me to clarify? Could I take a shot at it, Heather, or would you rather?
Yeah, I think we have to be just a little slightly careful, is that I think at one point we were looking at clarification, and I wonder if we're still getting into, so we were trying to clarify the slide, and I'm not certain, are we still in the clarification part of the slide? So typically we don't respond to questions that come from the public, and so I would defer to President Levin's wisdom on that.
Well, I mean, for me, these are the costs that were incurred in 2019 or are being incurred this year, right? This school year. And that's what's important. And it looks to me like there are 3 positions that are pretty much covered here. So I'm not really sure about the changes in this year that would necessitate another column here. I guess I'm not sure about the four changes that Ms. Jones was talking about. So, and I think kind of the most important thing is to look at the costs on the one hand, and then look at the level of service that we're getting and the performance of each of these current roles in the responsibilities that they've been given. And for me, it's, can we do better, and can we do better at the same price or cheaper? In other words, can we be more efficient about this? And so that's what's going on in my head, and I'm happy to entertain more discussion on this.
Jesse, can you hear
Yes.
me? Oh,
Yes.
well, I think you just hit the nail on the head, is that we want to make sure we're making the right decisions. And I'm just going to say again that we can ask school services to come in and look at all of the different positions that we currently have, what is lacking in those positions, and what we need coming out of those positions. And so, I'm not an expert. And all I know is that we've had a lot of changes going on, a lot of job descriptions, hiring different, or putting out their different jobs. And so, I'm just saying, is this going to keep going on? Are we just going to keep going like week to week, or are we going to actually get some professional guidance here, especially with what's going on?
Can I just make a comment?
Of course.
I guess my only concern about pulling in more guidance is that that sounds like more money to me. It sounds like consultants equals cash. And so I don't know that I want to spend $10,000 or $15,000 to discover we should hire these 2 people. So that's my only concern about that.
I'm kind of in agreement there as well. And I've already aired my concern about the original move that we made to consolidate this position. It wasn't in 2015; it was later than that. But the consolidated position, I call it the Ray move because it's everything that was sort of consolidated that Ray had to take over, and that was pretty intense. A lot of responsibility on one person, and probably spreading the butter a little too thin over a piece of bread, if you know what I mean. You really need someone who's superhuman to cover all of those responsibilities. I'm not sure if calling in school services, if I would do that right now, to tell you the truth. And I'm not sure if they would have the time to do that, just given what they're dealing with right now. Any
How much do
concerns
they
on this
charge?
matter? I'm not sure. Heather, do you know? Superintendent Olson?
Sure. Oops, sorry, I just muted myself. I think considering starting at probably 25 to 30, but we could find that information out.
Let's be
It
clear.
really-
That's 1,000. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
Right.
It would really ballpark on what the scope of the question was. So to do a total district would probably be closer to, again, I'm probably projecting it against a bigger district. My comparison is with a bigger district, but a whole district would be in the $35,000 range. But we could find that answer out.
I'm just wondering if Josie knows by chance.
Josie might know what the 2015 study
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah, I really don't recall the number. It would probably be in the range of 15, 20,000, but I don't recall exactly what that number was. Sorry.
The thing that I would just caution about is that we are in the thick of hiring season. And so we have some time to make the decision, but we certainly don't want to go into the summer. One of the reasons why the fall was so difficult last year is that we were scrambling to cover after a position became open in the late summer, early fall. And we certainly do not want to go into the summer with that position uncovered or unfilled, I'm sorry.
Is there any more discussion? Does anybody want to have the last word here?
I'd just like to say, what's wrong with having a coordinator of human services?
I can answer that. Is what we have to remember right now is currently we do have a director of HR. They also are a director of pupil services and special ed. And so for me, those positions are equal. So we look at pupil services and special ed being covered by a director. Education support services is covered by an executive director. We would look at those being comparable positions. And the difference between a coordinator and a director are those things that I called out on the job description that were different. So currently our coordinator does not participate in negotiations. Currently, our coordinator does not develop personnel policies and job descriptions. She works on them and then they get approved by the director. Currently, the coordinator position does not work on board policies and administrative regulations, does not serve on the superintendent's cabinet, and typically does not attend board meetings. So that's the crux of the difference between a coordinator and a director.
So I'd just like to say before hiring the coordinator of human services, previous administrations and boards were doing the HR piece, either with the superintendent helping. And I remember it was because we're considered a small district. And there was also, before the assistant superintendent, there was a director of business services, I think it was, or something like that, where they did the HR piece. And so, like I said, there's just been a lot of different job descriptions and since I've been on the board. And so at least we had the 2015 board study session that helped us guide our way through it. So I'm in support of that.
Okay, well, thank you. I guess both of these, there are two separate items here that we have to vote on. So I'm going to start with 12D, which is the job description. And so do I have a motion to approve the Director of Human Resources job description?
I'll motion to approve.
And do I have a second?
A second.
Okay. Suzanne, will you please take a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Trustee Bradall,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Levin,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
No.
Motion passes.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, hold on for a second here. I lost my screen there for a second. So we're moving on to 12E, and that is the appointment of a director of human services, which we just discussed. Do I have a motion to approve the public employee appointment director of human resources?
Jesse, I think I'm not clear on whether this, there were a couple of items.
Oh, sorry. So we haven't gone to that. We have not gone to that item. This is all 12D.
Oh, okay, got it. Sorry.
Well, is that the deal? So that's what it sounds like. Actually, it was not 12E. We did not go over 12E yet.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. I jumped the gun. So I thought that we had talked about both of those. Never mind. Getting late. So 12E, public employee appointment, director of human resources, Superintendent Olson, please walk us through this.
Okay, so at this point, for the many reasons that we've discussed in the importance of HR and the work that we have done in HR this year in the coordinator of HR position and the additional responsibilities that will be placed in the role as a result of the executive director of human resources, special ed, and pupil services being broken out with the coordinator and the executive director 2.0 FTE. The additional HR responsibilities placed on that, we would ask you to appoint the person that's currently in the coordinator role, that's Alexis O'Flaherty, as the 1.0 FTE director of human resources, and that would begin on July 1st. I do absolutely believe that we cannot have that position go open. That was a difficult transition last year. And so we need to make sure that the position is filled. So I would ask you to appoint Alexis O'Flaherty as the director for the beginning July 1st.
So discussion, are there questions regarding this measure?
Jesse, I think there's some public comment.
Oh, okay. Thank you. There's something from Sue Beckmeyer, but it was about 15 minutes ago, saying what is the range on the administrative salary schedule. So I don't believe that this is still standing. If Ms. Beckmeyer would like to talk again, please type in again, Ms. Beckmeyer, if you have a question on this item. So I do open it up to trustee comment, and I'll go down the list and then we'll open it up for the whole floor for discussion. But first, trustee Brocchini.
I think this sounds like a good plan.
Okay, trustee Villalobos.
I think everybody knows how I feel about this. I'm also going to voice my concern about an appointment rather than putting a call out there to all qualified people who might want to interview for the Director of Human Resources position. An appointment will not allow that to go public.
Thank you. Trustee Bردal.
I'm for it. I think she's a good fit.
Okay, and trustee Doggett.
I don't have any comments.
Okay. I am generally for it. I think that I think that there is some expediency necessary here, especially knowing that we have well, we have the May revised budget coming in from Sacramento, but we're not going to be able to depend on that, and we're probably going to have to do some pretty fancy footwork starting in August once we really know what we need. So I'm not sure if we're. I mean, we're gonna have to make some immediate staffing decisions for next year, and then there's going to be some very immediate staffing decisions. I think that might have to be made. So I'm generally for this appointment, but I also see where trustee Villalobos is coming from to try to make this public. I don't. I'm just not clear how fast that can really happen, or if it could really happen before the summer. It doesn't seem realistic to me. We have what 2 months left tops, month and a half to 2 months or something. So do we need more discussion on this? I don't want to cut it off.
I would just like to say that sometimes to make a decision, you need to take the extra time and energy and money to put into it. We're a public agency, so when we have jobs come up, to the best that we can, we should be posting them on EdJoin or what have you. I just feel like we're being rushed, and I don't like feeling rushed. When the coordinator of HR position came in, I felt rushed, but there was, an immediate need. I'm also just, it's still the budget is out there. We just keep hearing that it's going to be really bad and there could be teacher layoffs, or furloughs, or getting creative. And in that case, how much movement is going to be in the workforce if we go through a recession? Are people just going to be staying in their jobs, or are they going to be looking elsewhere? There's just really a lot of unknowns. But basically, just going back to we're a public agency, we should be posting it publicly to everybody and interviewing everybody that we can.
I do agree that we should post this before. I know we're pressed for time, but I feel like that's fair.
How long would it take to post this position and to go through the full hiring cycle?
5 weeks. 5 weeks would be the fastest.
Okay.
I think there's something to be said for promoting within an organization. Even the larger companies put a lot of stock in that of, people that they know, people that have worked their way up.
Yeah, I mean, there's a significant investment to even, let's say we find somebody else that we think might be better, there's a significant investment up to speed as well. And I'm kind of wondering if the current specialist is already working well, that this is more of a natural transition, and really she'd just be taking on a lot more responsibility, and that would be the biggest change that we'd see here.
I just want to remind everybody that we voted to have an interim. So we knew it wasn't going to be, the possibility wasn't going to be that it was going to be the same, just an interim. And we all know what that means.
So yeah, I mean that's a good point, but I mean an interim is really to hedge your risk against somebody that doesn't really work out, and that you, right? So
I think what we have to remember is that when we appointed the interim coordinator, is that we had an executive director that was overseeing all three areas. And what we didn't know at that time is the change that we were going to have. And so that's really what we're trying to mitigate, is that we're trying to fill the position of the executive director of three areas, and the person that's doing HR, and trying to fill that with 1.8 FTE. So I think we didn't know at that time. The interim was because we were quickly moving to replace an open position, and we were behind the ball in terms of some hiring situations. So a lot has changed since that time, and a lot will continue to change.
is there any further discussion before we put this to a vote? I will take that as no. Let me just, sorry, I just looked at the Q&A. I thought maybe there was a new Q&A, but there's not. So, and of course I lost all of you again. I'm sorry. Give me, there, you're back. Okay. So if there's no further discussion, shall we, do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Ms. Campos, could you please take the vote?
Yes. Trustee Bradall,
Yes.
Trustee Brugini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
No.
Trustee Levin,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
No.
Motion passes.
Okay, we're moving on to item 12F, as in Frank, human resources update. Ms. Gavidia.
Well, yes, I just thank you for the opportunity to provide you with an update on our hiring. As I wrote in the board weekly update last week, we are moving along very nicely and are filling our resource positions, which were such a problematic area this last year. We are benefiting from the state's loosening up its restrictions on hiring contractors in teacher positions. So we're between contractors and direct hires, we're going to open the school year with all of our resource positions filled, except for we have a few part-time positions that we're still looking to cover because of overflow in caseloads at certain sites. But I'm optimistic that we'll get those covered. We did have another resignation in our SDC staffing. So we are now up to 3 vacancies in the SDC program, and we're still looking to fill 2 psychologist positions. That's on the special ed side. On the general ed side, we are currently have searching for 5 multi-subject credentialed teachers and 3 single subject credentialed teachers. I think overall we're in very good shape considering the time of the year. And so that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
I'll open it up to my trustees before.
Just out of curiosity, what are the 3 single subject positions?
Science, math and science, and PE.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So Ms. Cavidio, when does the big effort start for outreach for next year? Like when does the market start heating up?
It's
So-
already, we're already in the midst of it.
Yeah, okay.
Everything's posted. Alexis has done a really nice job of moving our interview and selection process from, real life in person to online, and it's going very smoothly. So it's just a matter of continuing to move through that process.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So I guess in 3 weeks' time we'll hear another update to see how it's going, filling those vacancies. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Any other discussion amongst my colleagues? No. Okay. I'm not going to call on you on this one because it's starting to get a little old. So this was just for information. So we're going to move on to item 12G, acceptance of 2018-2019 Measure O General Obligation Bond Fund Annual Financial Report and Performance Audit. Ms. Peterson.
Thank you. The district did contract with Siobhan and Associates to perform the annual audit of the bond funds and to verify whether or not the funds were used within the scope of the published election materials. So they did a thorough audit. They checked the expenditures and they checked the bond language. That's what they call a performance audit. And so we did provide the audit report to the board. And tonight is an action item. We're recommending that the governing board accept the 2018-2019 Measure O Bond Fund Financial Report and Performance Audit.
So do we have any questions about the audit? I guess I'll start really quickly. I read through it. It all looked very, very fine. I guess I'd like to see a little more action. We got to start spending some of that money and doing something with it, but it all looked good to me. Anybody else? Nothing? Okay. Well, I will not call on you because, as I said, that's getting quite stale. Do I have a motion to approve the acceptance of the 2018-19 Measure O General Obligation Bond Fund Annual Financial Report and Performance Audit? Laverne, you got to unmute.
I motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Ms. Campos, will you please take the roll call or the
Yes.
vote?
Trustee Burdall,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Levin,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos. Trustee Villalobos,
She's probably unmuting.
Sorry, yes.
thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, item 12H, adoption of resolution number 2020-0429C, designation of applicants agent resolution for non-state agencies. Ms. Peterson.
Okay, thank you. Tonight is another action item. With the COVID-19 pandemic, we are going to receive some state funding. And this week we heard that we will receive some federal funding, but there is also the availability of FEMA funding whenever there's an emergency. And so I did start an application on the FEMA site. And what's part of the application is for the board to designate, authorize Superintendent Olson or myself to act as agents to execute applications for FEMA funds. And this would be a 3-year designation that over the next 3 years, any type of federal emergencies that arise, we would be able to quickly put in our application for funding.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions regarding the adoption of this resolution? I mean, my understanding is that this is simply just an authorization for Superintendent Olson or Ms. Peterson to be able to apply for these dollars that will likely be very needed. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So is there any discussion at all, or shall we move on? Pretty straightforward, I think. Okay, so we need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, I'm
I'll
gonna
second.
Oh,
Go ahead. Oh, go ahead. You can, Jesse.
Thank you. I had to do some sort of motion.
You're the
right?
finance person. You can do it.
Okay, so I second that motion. Ms. Campos, could you please take the roll call vote?
Yes. Trustee Burdall,
Yes.
Trustee Brocchini,
Yes.
Trustee Doggett,
Yes.
Trustee Levin,
Yes.
Trustee Villalobos.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're at item 13, future agenda items. Superintendent Olson.
Next week, we have a board work study that was designated for budget and LCAP. And as we set this agenda last Friday, the direction on the LCAP piece had not yet come out. I think it came out a little bit later in the day. And so LCAP will be different. We would like to share the nuances of that at the work study. Essentially, this year, what we're going to report out on is our response to COVID-19, particularly around unduplicated students. Next year in December, by December, I think we should do it before that, is kind of a 1-year plan of instruction and supporting unduplicated students in the time of transition from COVID time to who knows what to expect. So I think the work study, we will discuss that. I think it's really important that we share what we believe are going to be some of the effects on the budget. We don't know yet, as we expect that there'll be a May revise and an August revise. I think I heard someone talk about a November revise in terms of, I think the state will begin to know in August what the effect of this will be on the budget. So we're going to, and then there are just a few other issues that come up from a school district perspective in terms of responding to COVID. So things like grading policies, how we will grade and evaluate students, other kinds of important times. So it will be good to begin to share some of the information that we know in terms of the recovery plan. We will not have full information, and one of the things that is kind of the challenge is that things are put out there in the media, and so we will answer anything that we know to that point. So next week from 6 to 8 p.m. We will meet. We also, at the beginning of the meeting, will bring forward the new principal of Ocean Shore School for your approval. We were hoping to have that at this meeting, but it takes a little longer to do everything virtually. So we would bring that forward to you next Wednesday for your approval.
Okay. I'm not sure if I would like to entertain any discussion on future agenda items. Is there anything somebody wants to get on the agenda on any of these? We have May 20th and June 3rd. Nothing for now? Okay, well, we should all feel free to email Superintendent Olson if there's something that we want to get on there. Right, Superintendent?
Sure.
Okay.
I do have one thing.
Sure.
I'm just going to press for this again, that we look at school services, since we're not really going to know where we are as far as money until August, as Superintendent Olson said. Because we're going to go through some turbulent times, and we're going to need to know what recommendations for staffing.
So when do you so Laverne, when do you want to do that? Because it would seem that August would be the best time once we know where we stand. But are you suggesting we do it before that?
Yes, because
Okay.
I don't like the last minute things. So we should be having an informational, let's say if we invite somebody to come from school services to do a presentation on what kind of services they have for the board members. And then we can decide from there if that's something that we need or want to do.
So you want you want sort of a, for lack of a better term, a sales pitch of what they can offer us in terms of services ahead of time. I was a little
at that. I would like some direction.
okay.
Far as okay, Jesse, never mind.
No. I'm Trustee Villalobos, I'm trying to understand whether you want to see what offerings they have or whether you want them to actually do the work. And what I'm saying is them to actually do the work before August might not be the best idea because they won't have too much to offer us. They might give us information based on kind of a what is or what might be that might be very inaccurate. That's my only point. So I wasn't sure. I'm trying to understand whether you wanted to actually get them to provide the services or to tell them what they could do for us in terms of a type of analysis.
It's informational on what they can do. And why I'm suggesting that is because we have new board members.
Okay, I'm totally open to that. I would welcome school services to come and sort of tell us what types of services that they could provide us. How do others feel about that?
I'd be happy to have more information.
Okay.
I don't want to commit to 25 or 30,000, but maybe getting the sales pitch. But then there's the possibility of new board members again in November. So is that something, if it's for new board members, do we want to make sure it's the same board members in November?
But my understanding is this is just making a presentation to us about the types of analyses or services that they could provide us, right? So it's not, I don't know if there would be any charge at all for that, right? For them to do that. But I just wanted to make sure that I understood what Trustee Villalobos was suggesting. Because I don't want to spend 20, 25 or $30,000, before on an analysis that might be really not very accurate because we won't know where we stand.
It was information only, but I think there's a lot of feedback that we don't need it. So that's fine. You were just asking for future agenda items and I was putting it out there.
Okay, I don't know if I agree that there was a lot of feedback that we don't need it. I'm totally, I would welcome having them come and tell us the types of services that they could provide us. In terms of engaging them for a $25,000 study I just think might not be the best idea prior to, say, August. I'm happy to put that on the agenda if other people are happy to, in terms of having them give us what Trustee Villalobos is calling an informational.
I withdraw.
Okay. Um,
Well,
well,
I, as a new board member, wouldn't mind knowing what they offered and what those costs might be. That would be helpful as a new trustee. But so
I withdraw.
well,
Okay, I think, so that being said, how about, we actually do work with school services on a regular basis. Josie attends their budget, workshops. They're kind of the premier educator of CBOs and superintendents in the area of, school finance. And, several times during the year, they put out workshops where they really do forecast those presentations, and they end up right in they provide some of the slides, and we fill in our numbers that show what to expect. But we have a working relationship with them. We consulted with them a few different times, both around, hiring, special ed teachers, and some of the, calculations that we were making this year. So, we're happy to reach out to them and, get a sense of what they offer, and we can look at how to pair that with our needs. I'm not certain that that would necessarily fall under a budget presentation, but perhaps we can find out how that would best meet the needs of both our veteran and our new board members.
that sounds great. Really quickly, I have a question from the commenter just for public record. What's the date of the work study meeting next week?
It is next Wednesday. I'm pulling up the date here. Next Wednesday, so that would be May 6th from 6 to 8 p.m.
Okay.
There will be
Thank you.
something, I think, Suzanne let me know that, I think from 6 to 6:15. Maybe I should actually, let Suzanne speak to the kind of meeting. I think our, approval of the principal of Ocean Shore School happens in open meeting.
Correct.
And then at 6:15, after there has been a vote on the principal of Ocean Shore School, then we would, open the work study, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Actually, you would roll right into it.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So the first part, the 6 o'clock, is a special meeting?
The
Okay.
6 o'clock it's a regular meeting that rolls into a board work study.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time. I wish everybody a good night, and stay safe, and try to keep your morale up. All right.
All right, thank you. Good night,
Thank you very
everyone.
much. Oh, I should probably say meeting adjourned at 9:17 p.m.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.